Hello, explorers, and welcome to Reach the World's Explorer program. For more than 25 years, Reach the World has sparked student curiosity, bringing real-world adventure, fresh perspectives, and career pathways into K through 12 classrooms, all through the magic of virtual exchange. My name is Tim, and I'm so happy for all of us today that we get to start our school week by rejoining Reach the World Explorer and Indagare safari expert Izzy, live in Botswana for an update on her expedition. Has she seen her favorite animal? The one she told us about last time when she was just getting ready to leave for Botswana? We will find out when we join Izzy shortly in the spectacular Okavango Delta in Botswana. A special good morning to the classrooms that are joining us live for today's event. I highly suspect you'll have questions for Izzy today, especially after you hear about some of the things she's been experiencing just in the last 24 hours alone. Hang on to those wonderful questions. We'll get to as many as we can today. And with that, let's travel virtually to Botswana and reconnect with Indagare safari expert and Reach the World explorer, Izzy. Izzy, welcome.
Yay! Hi, how is everybody? I'm so excited to be here. I finally made it to Botswana.
Excellent. There's no doubt by your background that you are no longer in New York City. You have traveled someplace quite different. I want to just sort of turn it over to you for a minute or two so you can tell us what you've been doing since the last time we spoke to you. Don't quite get into the animals yet. I just want to know, how did you get from New York to Botswana? And I'll bring up a map for those of us who need a geography refresher.
Excellent. So as you can very well see, this is a real background. And I'm currently in the Okavango Delta in Botswana. So kind of like we talked about last time, where all of the water comes in and floods the ecosystem, you can very much see all of the water that's right here behind me today. And I got here just 3 days ago. So I did the 16-hour flight from New York all the way down to the southern tip of Africa, down in Cape Town. And then from Cape Town, I flew over to Mon, Botswana, which is a city in Botswana. And from Botswana, I got on another airplane and flew over to the Okavango Delta, where I am today. So it's been a long journey, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm definitely still feeling a little bit jet lagged, but all good things.
Well, it's so cool to see all that water that you told us we were going to see just right there in the background. You were telling me before we started that you're on sort of alert for a special wildlife situation. So just so we know as we progress through this this video call today, can you tell us a little bit about what you're paying attention to around you?
Totally. So we are all on alert right now. This is the real Okavango Delta ecosystem. And essentially, I'm in a tent right now just behind me. And we are in the animals' habitat, and there's absolutely no fences. So this is where the animals live, and we're just here to learn and to observe them. And so because we're in their habitat, there's very much lots of wildlife all around us. And I was just telling Tim earlier, about an hour ago, there was a huge elephant about 20 feet away right there, rubbing up against a tree, scratching its back and breaking down all of the leaves. And anytime there's an elephant or any wildlife or large wildlife that is that close, we're told to go inside. So I'm very much on alert in case we hear any big rummaging in the bushes. So I'll keep you posted.
Excellent. We'll help you by keeping an eye on your background too. If you don't hear it coming,
let me know if you see anything.
Look for waving hands in the background, like Izzy right behind you. So cool, Izzy. Thank you so much for joining us from such a cool location. I have one picture sort of ready to go here that I think was maybe one of your first things that you encountered when you arrived in Botswana. Can you tell us what is happening here?
Yes, that is a great question. So my first stop before I got to the Okavango Delta, I was in the Kalahari Desert in this place called the Makati Kati Salt Pans. Very different from the Okavango Delta, and the Makati salt pans are essentially this much drier, kind of desert-like, they're still grass, but very desert-like ecosystem. And there's these huge salt pans, which used to be this ancient salt lake. And essentially, the salt pans used to be larger than actually modern day Switzerland. So imagine how big these salt pans are. And over thousands of years, the climate changed and caused all of the lakes to dry up. And so now you kind of have this big lake. And in the salt pans, you get lots of animals that are attracted to kind of a desert-like dry landscape. And specifically, meerkats are very, very big in this environment. And so this is the meerkat that is on my head. The meerkats, they prefer these like dry, sandy-like kind of desert ecosystems, which is the Makati salt plains. And you also get a lot of springbuck, which are kind of like little kangaroo-like animals. And they also prefer the dry ecosystem.
Excellent. I think we actually have a short video of some meerkats. We can get another look at those meerkats.
I know, they're crawling all around.
They don't seem to be particularly scared of you, or almost more like curious.
Yeah, so these meerkats are actually habituated by the camp director that is living in the ecosystem. And so there's a man named Rex, and he stays with the meerkats all day. He's essentially observing all of their behavior and learning from the meerkats, and learning about what they do, what they eat, how they travel, how they move. And essentially the meerkats have become habituated. And so now you can bring the travelers over to see the meerkats. And they're really cute. They stand up on their hind legs, and the meerkats try to always get to the highest surface. And so they can see everything around them in case there's any prey or predators. And so that's why they oftentimes climb up on people or whoever's nearby, because we're taller than the ground.
Very, very cool. All right, we had a good look at the meerkats. Excellent. And then you moved from the Kalahari Desert to where you are now, the Okavango Delta.
Yes.
And as promised, the water has arrived. And is the wildlife that follows the rains and the sort of flooding of this region, is that proven to be true?
Oh my God, it is everywhere. I saw zebras, we saw wildebeest, we saw buffaloes, elephants, leopards, lions. I've seen, honestly, giraffes. I'm like, what else? Just about everything. Honestly, there is so much wildlife around. And you can see, it's already started to flood. And so the floods come from the water that, floods the area, comes from Angola in the highlands, in the mountain range over in Angola. And it comes down into Botswana and floods the entire Okavango Delta, which is where we are now. So you can really see like all of the water in which the animals live. And something that's very cool about the water is it just, floods everywhere and creates all of these little channels and riverways and pathways of water. And so it also creates lots of islands. And because most of the animals, do not live in the water, they live on the land, they are all concentrated on these small little islands. And so when you're going around looking throughout the Delta, you see all of these little islands, and there's lots of different types of animals on the islands trying to stay dry and just drink the water. It's very cool.
That sounds like a very special wildlife experience. And you have seen a lot of wildlife, as we discussed. We're about 10 minutes into our call today, and I know we've got lots of videos to show. Do you want to start by showing one other wildlife encounter? And let's talk about one other wildlife encounter, and then we'll get some students on to ask you some questions.
Totally.
Where's your start?
Oh my goodness. my most exciting wildlife encounter of the day, if we can go ahead and talk about the leopard. That's
Oh,
the animal I'm most excited to talk about.
I was gonna present it as a quiz to see if anyone could remember what your favorite animal was, but you've given it away, and that's okay because there's a lot to talk about.
I spoiled the surprise, but there's a lot to talk about with the leopard. So what we did this morning was we actually tracked down the leopards. So the leopards were not, walking around over here, over there in plain sight. We actually had to find them, which was very cool. And so we did lots of different things to find the leopards. First, what we did was we were driving and we looked down at the ground to try and find the leopard tracks. And the leopard has a very specific paw print. It's like a rock with kind of like 3 little dots that make up the paw. And so we're looking in the dirt below us, trying to find all of the tracks of the leopard. And then once you see the tracks, you can tell which way the leopard is walking, and you can tell how many leopards there are. And you can also tell if they're male or female. And so we followed the tracks. And then you also have to listen with your ears, because the birds, anytime the birds see a predator, they all make these calling noises. So you hear like caw, caw, and the birds are all talking to each other. So whenever the birds are all cawing and making all of these signals and noises to each other, you know that the predator is nearby. And then we also look up in the trees at the monkeys, and all of the monkeys also make a loud noise to signal to the other monkeys anytime there's a predator around. And so not only do you listen to the sound of the monkeys making the big loud noises whenever the leopard comes nearby, but you also look at the monkeys and you see which way the monkeys are looking. So if the monkey is looking this way, then it's looking at the leopard this way. And if the monkey is looking this way, then the animal must be that way. So we look at the monkeys and see which direction they're looking at so that we can then find the leopard. So it took about an hour of tracking down and listening to all of the signals, but we eventually found him, and here they are up in the tree.
You warned us last time that if you're gonna find a leopard, you need to be looking up. And look at that, there it is.
He's about to come down. He kind of falls down the tree though.
For such a big animal, though, it moves very gracefully up and down trees.
It really does.
It makes it look easy.
I know. I also learned today that even if the leopard falls from 20 feet up in the tree, he'll always land on his feet and he won't be injured from falling from 20 feet up, which is incredible.
How did you feel when you saw these beautiful, beautiful leopards in the wild? You must have been ecstatic.
I was extremely excited. Well, at first you want to look at it with your 2 eyes and really feel it and observe it and watch it move. It also has one of its little youngsters with it that's 9 months old, which we've got another video of. But you want to look at it before, taking a bunch of photos. And I did get lots of photos, but I think just being there present with the animal so close to you in its natural habitat is the most incredible feeling. So this is a termite mound. And so the leopard is crawling on the termite mound, trying to get height.
When you find a leopard, when you successfully track a leopard, or in this case 2 leopards, do you follow them? Like, how do you
good question. So we did follow them, but we can only follow them for a short amount of time because we really want to keep our distance between us and the leopard. And we don't want, our position of where we're located to impact where the leopard is going to naturally move. And so we keep our distance, and we only followed them for about 20 minutes.
Did the leopard seem curious about you at all?
Honestly, no, they didn't really look at us. They kind of just continued going about their ways. This is my favorite. This is the 9-month-old and the mom, and they're playing together. I think the baby comes back.
Here, we'll play it right from the beginning.
Yeah. Ah! So cute.
Awesome. Absolutely amazing. Now, Izzy, like we know that the Okavango Delta is like a very special place. Would you say that these incredible scenes that you're showing us right now are unusual or just like everyday life?
I think this is everyday life out here in the Okavango Delta. I was asking my guide today, like, is there a time that's better or worse to be out here? Is it always like this? And he has been a guide for 26 years and said it's always like this. There's wildlife everywhere, and it's because it's such a rich and healthy ecosystem. So the animals and the plant species can survive everywhere.
Outstanding. Izzy, I'm going to welcome some of our friends at Midland School, Mr. Marion's class, onto the camera, see if we have a couple questions for you. I'm sure there are some. Do we have any brave question askers? Hello, first of all, Midland School. Very nice to see you today.
Hi.
Do you have any questions for Izzy in Botswana?
Hi. Yeah.
Does Botswana feel like Texas, or does it feel different from Texas?
Oh, that's such a fun question. Does Botswana feel different from Texas? I would say yes, it does feel very different from Texas in a couple of ways, but also there are some similarities actually. So, where I grew up in Houston, Texas, it's a big city, kind of like New York City, and there's lots of tall buildings and streets and homes and skyscrapers, and it's a very busy city, so it doesn't feel anything like being out here in the wild. But something about Texas is most of Texas is actually very flat, so there's not many like mountains, and or at least from the part of Texas where I'm from, it's very, very, very flat. And so Botswana is also a country that's very flat. You know, you're looking here and like there are no hills, there are no mountains in the distance. It's generally very, very flat. And so I would say it feels really different from being in Texas, but there's a couple of things that I think can be kind of linked to Texas as well. Really fun question.
Thank you for that wonderful question. Should we take one more from Midland and then we'll go to Ms. Ponsard's class and then we'll loop back around. Everyone who has a question for Izzy is going to get a chance to ask today.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
When you're walking through the grass, like how tall is it? Like knee level, waist level, foot level?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, well, when we're out in the wilderness on our game drives in our big 4x4 kind of Jeep looking like vehicle, we're actually not walking through the grass because, out of protection for us, because there's predators everywhere. So we have to stay in the vehicle. But when you're looking at the grass, there's some places where it's like 2 to 3 feet tall. You know, it kind of goes up to my waist. So the grass is really, it's pretty tall. And because the water is here, it looks very like marshland like. And so the grass, is certainly very hydrated because there's so much water here. So the grass is actually able to grow quite tall. That's a really good question. But there's also, so you kind of see the marshland here where there's like water meets grass, but then there's also a lot of parts that are sand. And so when there's sand, there's not really any grass in that area. And when I was talking about finding and tracking the leopard and looking at all of the different paw prints in the sand, when we were tracking the leopard this morning, we were looking in the sand versus, you wouldn't really be able to see the paw prints as well if you were looking in the grass. But great question, and I would say the grass is pretty tall here.
Thank you for that great question. We will come back to you, Midland. Keep those questions on the top of your mind. Ms. Ponsard's class, I'm going to welcome you to the screen. Hello, Ms. Ponsard's class. It's great to see you today. Do we have one or two questions to kick us off from your side?
Braylon, come on in.
Hi.
Where else do you plan to go in Botswana?
That's a great question. So what we're doing right now is I'm in the Okavango Delta. I came from the Makati salt pans. Now we're in the Okavango. And then after this, we're going to another part of the Okavango Delta, which I have been told looks very different and apparently has a lot more water than where I am right now. And then we're also going to another region up in the north called the Linyanti, which has actually water, like flood water, all year round. And that's where we'll be doing a lot of the boat style safaris in those Makoro canoes. So I'm just essentially moving around northern Botswana.
Excellent question. Should we take one more from Ms. Ponsart? Excellent.
For your like adventures that you have you ever gotten like lost?
Yes, that's a great question. I think the guides and the trackers that are here kind of hosting your experience and bringing your experience to life and driving the vehicle, going out on all of the safari game drives, they have been guides and trackers for many, many years, and they know the land like the back of their hand. And so I would say the guides don't usually get lost, but when I'm in the car, I very much feel, turned around and don't know which direction it is back to camp. We definitely really rely on the expert guides who live here and know the area extremely well to guide the adventure and lead us to the wildlife. So guides for sure don't get lost, but travelers like myself, I feel like I don't know the land as well and definitely get turned around.
Great question, Ms. Ponsart's class. We'll come back to you. Izzy, I have two things I want to ask you, and then we'll do another round of questions. First of all, when we were talking last time about favorite animals, I was thinking myself after that call what my favorite animal was, and you saw it. And I want to bring up the video. It's actually my favorite baby animal. If I were going to pick an animal that's my favorite when it's a baby, you saw it. And I'm going to bring up this video, and maybe you can tell us what we're looking at.
Yeah, these are the Ellies. So this is a herd of elephants. I think there were like 22 of them. And you can kind of see there's the big adults. So there's male and female adults. And then there's also like 4 different babies that are all around a year and a half old. And all of the elephants are currently walking across the grassland plains, and they're actually walking over to a lake area. And they're going to drink all of the water and play in the lake. And because it is really warm right now, it's about 80 degrees right now. The elephants usually go over to the lake to drink, but also to cool off. And so they'll take a bath and they'll spray the water with their trunks all over themselves to cool off and help with the heat.
And how do you feel when you're this close to these magnificent, big, beautiful animals? That's a big elephant.
You feel really lucky, and it feels really special, and you feel very small.
This elephant is just by the side of the road?
Yep, he's actually on the road, and you can tell that he's really comfortable right now because he's still eating. And his ears are flapping and his tail is wagging. And so all of those signals tell us that the elephant is content and he's happy and we're keeping a safe distance from him. If the elephant were disturbed or upset or angry, you would know because his ears would go straight up. He would stop eating and he would kind of face you and get in like a big pose to scare you off.
Spectacular. So cool. All right, one final request and then we'll go back to Q&A. Is it possible for you to turn your camera a little bit and show us a little bit more of your camp?
Yeah, so here we are. Over here, this is like, there's a little table over here, but I'm like, can you see any? There actually are some elephants over there. Let's see if we can see them. I don't, if I walk too far away, I sometimes lose Wi-Fi, but over there, I'm like, can you see them? Over all the way in the distance, there's like tiny little elephants. You can see them right there. And then we're over here. And then here is like the outdoor bed in case you want to sleep outside. And then all of the tree is like built into the camp. And then this is our tent. It's very And then there's the delta.
That looks amazing. It looks like sort of everything is sort of facing out towards this like open air wildlife bubble, fishbowl, I'd say.
Very, very much so. And it's incredible from your tent, you have a view of the entire ecosystem right behind us. And like I said earlier, there was an elephant that literally just walked up right here and was rubbing its back against one of the trees right there, like that tree, this tree. So it comes up close. There's no fences.
Absolutely amazing. I think that raises a whole bunch of new questions, and I'm going to bring, let's bring Mr. Marion's class back in, see if we can get a couple more questions answered.
Hi.
Have you ever been to any other deltas? And if you did, is it similar to the Okavango Delta?
That's such a great question. Have I ever been to another delta? I don't think I have. I'm trying to think if I have. I don't think I've been to another delta, but the Okavango Delta is honestly, it has blown my mind, and it is unlike any landscape I've ever seen in my entire life. So I can confidently say it definitely doesn't look like anything I've ever seen.
You told us you were a kid who asked a lot of questions about what it's like in other places. Now that you're actually there, what is one thing that is exactly how you imagined it would be?
Sorry, will you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I got cut out.
You told us you were a kid who asked a lot of questions about what it's like in other places. Now that you are actually there, what is one thing that is exactly how you imagined it would be?
Oh, that's such a good question. One thing that I imagined how it would be is, let's see. I always thought that Botswana was going to be a really, really unique and special place because the area that I'm in, the park or the wildlife ecosystem, because there's no fences at all, the game viewing and the tracking of animals and seeing all of the wildlife, it feels extremely raw and special and authentic, and there's nothing zoo-like about it. And I had always heard from people who had been to Botswana that something really special about Botswana was how kind of wild it feels to be here, given that there's absolutely no fences and there's nothing else around here besides the animals' homes and their ecosystems. And I think that's definitely something that I've noticed since I've been here, which feels quite different from other safaris that I've been on. I've been to South Africa and I've been to Kenya and lots of other safari countries where sometimes you can actually see a fence that separates the animals from, where people live or another part of the land. And, so you see that the animals are fenced in, but Botswana, no fences whatsoever. So it just feels really, really special and wild.
Thank you for that wonderful question. Can we take one more from Midland? Excellent.
If we closed our eyes right now, what sounds would we hear around you? Is it quiet, or are there birds and animals making noise nearby?
It is not quiet. It is very noisy here. So if you close your eyes and you just listen, you hear tons of different types of birds calling. There's the weavers that make kind of a sing noise, and there's just all different types of birds. You also hear the monkeys. The monkeys are really noisy. They're making like a noise, and they're talking to each other. At night, because we're so close to the water, which is the habitat of the hippos, you hear the hippos all night. And the hippos kind of sound like oink noises, kind of like what a pig makes. And they're just in the water splashing around. So you hear, like, the splash and the oink, 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 oink. So it's definitely very, very noisy. Also, the impalas, which kind of look a little bit like a deer, they have horns, and or the males have horns, and they're like a tan looking deer like animal. They make a noise. It's like oomph. And so you hear them too, and there's lots of calls. It's never dead silent, which is really special.
What a wonderful question. What a wonderful question. And I think, Izzy, we have a short video of a giraffe that may, like, if you listen very carefully, I'll turn the volume way up, may give you a sense of other sounds. I think this was the one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this one's kind of quiet, but there you go, a giraffe that Izzy saw. I'll keep looking for the video that has the background sound. The question about sound is really, really interesting, and makes me kind of wonder, how do you sleep when you're on safari? Like, when you hear, you're just one person in this like cacophony of sounds.
So I actually I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. because we met at 5:30 to go out on the game drive in order to look for the animals before the sun comes up, while the animals might be still hunting. And when the guide came to get me in my tent, he was like, shh, and I was like, what? And all of a sudden we heard this lion roar, and it was so loud and it was so close, and you feel it in your entire body. It's like a vibration. And so there have been many nights where I've been woken up in the middle of the night because you hear either an animal that's really close to you, or even animals that are far away that are making like a loud noise. It's very, very noisy. And especially, again, the hippos are really loud. And because, we're in a water ecosystem, they're essentially right below us.
Amazing. Ms. Ponsard's class will come to you in 30 seconds. I just want to ask a follow-up question. Izzy, is alarm clock by lion roar next to your tent the most effective way to like get out of bed right away?
It definitely wakes you up. Once you hear the lion roar, you can't stay in bed.
All right, we've got our next question asker from Ms. Ponsard's class. I'll turn it over to you.
Hi.
On average, how many animals do you see each day?
Oh my gosh, so many animals. On average, I would say we're also seeing like we see like the big animals that a lot of people know, like the buffaloes and the elephants and the lions and the leopard and cheetah, zebras, giraffes, crocodile, hippo. But then you also see like so many different types of bird species. I definitely can't name all of them, but anytime you're driving, if you're not seeing like a big mammal, then there's birds everywhere. And so including all of the birds and all of the critters on the ground, I mean, you're seeing a lot. It's everywhere.
Fantastic question. Oh, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
What's your favorite type of animal noise?
Type of animal noise? That's a really good question. Honestly, I think the lion roar is incredible. Seeing a lion roar also is really interesting. When you're looking at a lion and it's roaring, it's like sitting upright or it's standing. It's not like lying down. It's sitting upright, and it opens its mouth, and just like this deep, long, like really, really big, loud noise comes out, and it's just vibrating, and you can feel it from far away, the vibrations through your body. It's incredible. But also, like you can see the lion's breath come out as it's roaring, which is very cool. So this morning we probably heard the lion roar like, I don't know, 15 times, and it's just like it's really, really cool. And you feel very lucky to be able to hear the lion roar. So that's my favorite noise in the bush.
Excellent question. Let's take one more question from Miss Ponsard's class.
Is there an animal you haven't seen yet that you really want to see?
I have not seen a cheetah. That's a good question. I would love to see the cheetah. Have not seen a cheetah, and I actually haven't seen a crocodile yet either. So apparently the place that we're going to next, because there's even more water there, apparently there's a lot of crocodiles. So I'm hoping to see a crocodile.
All right. Excellent questions from Ms. Ponzo's class. Thank you so much for these great questions. Izzy, what time is it in the Okavango Delta right now, approximately?
It is 4:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, so yes, we are all in North America getting our day started here. I feel like we're witnessing in real time sort of a slow African sunset in the background of you. Maybe you've got a couple more hours of daylight to go, but such a a mesmerizing scene behind you. Can you tell us, we're going to reconnect with you again in 2 days. So for all of our students who are here and have more questions, and we will get to more questions before we're done today, I promise. You're going to have in the next 2 days many more wildlife encounters. It sort of sounds like things come like nonstop once you're in such a special environment like that. Can you just talk real briefly about what a typical day is like for you? Like you mentioned you wake up really, really early. We touched on that before. Like, what do you anticipate from the next couple days?
Great question. So I've been waking up really early. We try to get out there before the sun comes up. And so I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. We saw the leopard around, I think 6:30 or 7 a.m. And then we were out in the bush on a game drive until around 10 a.m., in which case we came back to the lodge, had some downtime. I had lunch, and then I took a nap. And then we actually go out for our second afternoon game drive around 4:45, 5 o'clock. So after today, I'm going to be heading out on my afternoon game drive. And usually the afternoon game drive lasts around 2 hours, depending on, what you see and what the action is out in the bush. And then we come back for dinner and sunset. The sunset's around 7 o'clock, and we saw the sunset last night. It was absolutely beautiful, and actually the sunset's right here, and so we get an incredible sunset right from our tent, which is very cool. And then tomorrow I'm going to be flying to another camp, and so to get to the other camp we'll take a small little airplane that can land on the little runways where the camps are located. It's a smaller airplane. There's just about 12 seats in it. And then, so to go from camp to camp, we're taking these small little planes. But in 2 days from now, I will be at a different camp in a different part of the Okavango Delta that is known to have more water. So I will be reporting live.
Excellent. Please keep taking more of these amazing short videos for us. It's so cool for us to be able to see what you're seeing. I'm going to make one more quick pass through our friends at Midland School and Ms. Ponsard's class. I think it looks like maybe Ms. Ponsard's class is transitioning to their next class, which is totally fine. Thank you so much for joining us today. Midland friends, are there any final questions? This doesn't have to be your final questions. Maybe we'll see you later this week. But if there are anybody who wants to ask a question to Izzy while we've got a couple more minutes, please feel free.
We heard that students in Botswana have to walk long distances to get to school. Have you seen any kids on their way to school? And what did they carry their books in?
That's a great question. So actually, when I was in Mon, the city that we were in when we flew to the Okavango Delta, so I flew into Mon and then I got on another small little plane to get to the Delta. Mon is a city in Botswana. And I did see a lot of kids and students, and the kids were traveling on bicycles and also by foot with their parents. And so I think kids are biking to school, they're walking to school, depending on where you live. That's a great question.
We saw that safari vehicles are like mobile bases. How close do the animals actually get to the truck? And do they ever seem curious about you?
How close do the animals get to the truck? Was that the question?
Yes.
Great question. So we try to keep our safe distance away from the animals. So usually, depending on the animal and what they're doing, like at minimum 30 or 40 feet away. And so, we keep the safe distance from the animals, but we never know what the animals are going to do and where they're going to walk to or if they're going to move. And so sometimes, like today, the leopard actually, they'll walk close up to the vehicle and kind of, look around a little bit and they'll notice you, but then they'll keep walking along their way. And so today, the leopard, it came up to the vehicle and probably got about 5 feet away from the vehicle. And my heart was racing. I was so nervous, but it didn't even really look up. It just kind of kept walking and, got close by us and then passed along and continued walking on its way. So, we try to keep a really long distance between us and the animal, to protect the animal and to protect ourselves. But also, once we're parked and the animal is moving around, like the elephant, for example, is moving around, it comes close. We just have to stay very, very still and be really quiet and not make any movement and not stand up or anything to startle the animal in case it does come close. So they can come close, but we try to keep a distance. That's a great question.
What was the very first animal that you saw in Botswana, and did it look different in person than it looked in pictures?
Such a great question. The first animal that I saw was, what was the first thing I saw? In the Delta, the first animal that I saw was a zebra, or I saw like a lots of different zebras together, which is called a dazzle of zebras when there's a group of zebras together. So we saw a dazzle of zebras, and I was actually surprised because even though the zebras are all like black and white striped, kind of like horse looking animals, in different parts of the world, in different countries, in different regions, in different habitats, even though the zebras are all black and white stripes, they actually all look very different depending on their where they live. And so actually what I found here is the zebras, the black stripes they look thinner than sometimes they usually do elsewhere. And so therefore the zebra looks, it kind of looks more white colored with thin black stripes. Versus in other places I've been to, like in Kenya, for example, I found that the zebras have much thicker stripes in that part of the world. And so the first animal that we saw was the zebra, and I was surprised that it looked a little bit different than zebras that I had seen before in the past.
All right. Have we gotten through all of our questions from Midland? Midland, I'm going to clap for you because those were fantastic questions today.
That was so good.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions. Should we give Izzy a big goodbye wave and thank you today? Thank you all so much for joining. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And of course, we're going to be reconnecting with Izzy later this week when she's in a different camp with more water. And I know that you had previewed a Makoro possible boat trip in the Delta, which is something to look forward to. Who knows what you're going to encounter between now and when we reconnect with you on Wednesday. But Izzy, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. We are going to reconnect, as I said, so stay tuned. And for our classrooms that are following along, make sure you're checking out Izzy's written articles on her Reach the World Virtual Exchange homepage. The link is in the chat. You can go and see some of the other things that she's been thinking about and sharing with us. And again, we'll reconvene later this week for plenty more exploration and questions for Izzy. Have a great evening, Izzy. You've got a lot left to go today. You have your evening game drive. Very, very exciting. We hope that you see your cheetah tonight or maybe elsewhere in the next couple of days. Fingers crossed.
I will report back.
We hope so. This has been phenomenal. Thank you so much. Students, have a great morning. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring. Goodbye, everyone. Take care, Izzy.
Bye.